Hi, ladies, and welcome to today's workshop. Today, this month, we are featuring four incredible experts to deliver workshops on copywriting, starting to write your book, how to write compelling copy, and how to make your sales copy really work for you. And today is the second workshop of this month, and I'm really excited about introducing you Margalo Eden. She is from Florida. Hi, Margalo.
Hi, Ramonda.
How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. How are you
Fantastic.
today?
I'm great. Finally, the sun came out in the UK, so we are enjoying a little bit of sunshine. How's the weather out in Florida?
Oh, it's gorgeous. Sun is shining, blue sky, perfect for this time of year.
Amazing. I know you guys have a lot of rain in the summertime, but glad to hear there's loads of sunshine today.
So far, it usually rains in the afternoon, like clockwork, every day.
Yeah,
Now it's sunny.
amazing. Well, I'm super excited. We have been building up to this workshop, and it is a subject that many ladies are quite excited about because they're thinking about writing a book.
Mm.
So today's workshop is all about claiming your authority by sharing your knowledge and wisdom in writing a book, how to get started, and you, Monglo, will be sharing some really interesting insights. But before we start, I'd like for you to have a little introduction and let us know a little bit more about your expertise and your experience in this area.
Sure. Well, I've been an editor pretty much since graduated college. I started my own freelance editing business. And I was editing before that. When I was a kid, my friends and I used to not only show each other our poetry, but edit each other's poetry. So I've been a geek for a really long time. Love language, and so it's been about 20 plus years since I've had my own editing business. And what happened was that around last year or so, I decided to kind of expand what I was doing with my editing and
Mhm.
coaching, so that instead of people just sending me their manuscript and me kind of fixing that up for them, I wanted to work more closely with the writers themselves, especially people who don't consider themselves to be writers, but they have amazing stories to tell, inspiring and compelling stories to tell. But because they're not experienced in writing, they don't really know where to start, how to get those stories they have in their head down on the page so that they can get it in front of people. So that's what I've been doing.
Amazing. I think each and every one of us have a story to share and
Absolutely.
probably a book in each one of us.
Hmm.
That's
At least
amazing.
one book.
So I bet you get to hear so many stories and read amazing journeys of people in your current work.
Yes, absolutely, I do. I told you a little bit when we first spoke that initially I was planning to work with women who had been through trauma and wanted to get their stories out and share them. And what happened was that I started getting a lot of coaches coming to me, and they had amazing stories to tell because many of these women um, became coaches, motivational coaches, transformational coaches, health and wellness coaches, because they had been through some very dramatic journeys themselves.
Yeah.
They went through not only dramatic journeys, but then healing journeys. Um, so in a way, I'm helping both. I'm helping professional women, and I'm helping people who have been through trauma. And and now that they have their own coaching businesses, they want to share their stories with others, not only for self-help purposes, but for their own therapeutic
Yeah.
reasons, but especially because it's a way to get their stories out and use it as a springboard to let other people know, hey, I'm here to help you.
Yeah.
So
I think,
that's I do get to hear some really incredible stories.
yeah,
A
I
very intimate relationship. The one-on-one coaching for especially for memoir.
because even the whole process of writing a book is very personal. You have to go through a journey and sort of deep dive into your experiences, your maybe traumas or happy moments and relive the whole experience of it.
I do find that with a lot of my clients, is it because they share it with me, so I know this to be true, that even events that they think they've gotten over completely, that don't hold any emotional charge for them anymore, they realize there's still, a layer to be healed, because once they do go back in there and they're writing about it, it's not just, see, the writing process is so different from just speaking your story, right? Because you can tell your story, I can sit here and tell you my story, and then it sort of dissipates into the air and it's okay and it's done. But once you set it down, like setting it down in stone on paper, and it's documented, it's like, wow, there it is. You can't look away. And so it really brings you back in there. And people find that, wow, one of my clients just told me the other day, she's like, oh my God, this is like free therapy. Not that I'm a therapist, but just the questions that I need to ask to help someone through the writing process. And because it's personal stuff they're writing about, she's like, wow, I never saw it from that perspective. Like, oh my gosh, I felt a little teary. So yeah, it's a very powerful emotional and cognitive journey for people who write these books.
Unbelievable. Really love that. So let's get started with today's workshop. And I have so many questions for you. And ladies, if you are joining this workshop live, make sure you interact in the chat box, ask any questions, and just let us know whether you're enjoying this content. So I have a few questions. Why would someone want to write a book? Why do usually people write a book?
Well, people write books for many reasons.
Yeah.
Something could be to entertain, of course. By people, particularly people in business, entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Mainly the people who come to me. Although I do have some people who come to me just because they've been carrying a story around for 20 years and they're like, I finally just want to get it down. Some of them don't even plan to publish. But what I find with my clients is the way that they can use a book, whether it's a memoir or some sort of a topical nonfiction book, like, something about aromatherapy or chiropractic or anything else, is that, one, we're storytelling creatures. Okay? This is how we teach. This is how we learn. It's how we communicate, right, through stories. And everyone's story, like you as an entrepreneur, for instance, you have a story. There's a reason why you started doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And you can share that. And through telling the stories and what they mean to us, especially, and if, like I said, even if it's topical nonfiction, there's still a story there. It's still a narrative, right? Whatever you put on this page has to compel the reader to go on to the next page. It's still storytelling. And it's so closely related to personal branding, right, which we do with stories.
Absolutely.
Everyone knows that the founder of Wendy's named his restaurant after his daughter with the little pigtails, right? Everyone knows that story. That's part of personal branding, and that's part of his personal and professional story. And each of us has that. So not only does it help with our branding for our business, but it makes us accessible, right? It makes us real. People get to know us so much better than they can just through, marketing, flyers and little blips here and there, right? So it helps with connection with our audience and our target clients. And another thing it does is it helps extend your reach, right? It's one thing, we could be on every social media platform, right? We can be on Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram, which is how you found me, by the way.
Yeah. Instagram is still alive.
You can be on all these platforms and still only reach a certain number of people. When you write a book, especially these days, if you self-publish on Amazon, say, or one of the other, self-publishing platforms, you can reach so many people who you would not normally reach, right? If you're just out on social media and someone has to be looking for what you do specifically, right, in order to find you. But let's say write a memoir, you're out there on Amazon under memoirs, and someone who's just looking for memoirs may come across your book,
Yeah.
which is about you and your business, whether it's coaching or something else, right? And so you can reach a whole huge separate demographic
That you
next to the page
wouldn't
of your business. And
ordinarily reach.
it really is amazing. And of course, it could be another stream of income stream for you,
Yeah, of
which doesn't.
course. Like, establishing yourself as a thought leader, or you know, I feel like some people that publish a book, it opens a whole new avenue of new whole opportunities, area of opportunities for, especially for entrepreneurs that write it for that specific purpose to share their story. And another thing I feel that with writing a book, your story lives on forever.
Mm, that's true. And that is another reason why people do write stories, particularly memoirs, because even in the health related field or some other you know, professional field, there are always going to be um, new discoveries and changes in technology, changes in techniques. But specifically with memoir, a lot of people do write it as a legacy.
Yeah.
Some people write just for their families, to give them some family history. But it's true, no matter who you are, and every person is unique. As you said, every person is different. Every person has their own story. But underneath the story, underneath the external events, there's those basic human emotions that everyone can relate to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what touches us. That's really why people read, right? Because they want to relate to someone, they want to learn from them. And so, yes, by writing a book, your story is out there forever, whether it's going to be digital or in acid-free paper, whatever form it is, your story's out there, it's out there forever, and you get to share it with everyone. And that will naturally bring people to you. So it's a great way to network. It's a great way to leave a legacy. It's a great way to communicate with people who you never would have met otherwise. And
Yeah.
of course, that can only be good for your business as well as just your personal social life.
Yeah, absolutely. And tell me about the storytelling aspects of it. Not everyone are great storytellers. Not everyone are great at writing their memoirs. How does one start with, storytelling?
This is down and getting to the crux of it. I love this part.
I'm going right for it.
Well, there are two parts, things that I generally start with clients. And true, the people who come to me, as I said, are people who don't consider themselves writers, and they have no idea how to start, where to start. And so the way to start is their basic, and I happen to be writing a book about this, so keep your eyes open. So a story, you use fiction techniques. Okay, memoir is a very strange animal in that it's nonfiction, right? But it's still a story, so you need to use fictional techniques. And before you start to imagine your life as a skein of yarn, right? A big old full skein of yarn with the wrapped around and it's a big fluffy thing, right? You go into the store and you like to feel soft and squishy. Well, you have to unravel that, right? You need to find one story out of that skein of yarn. So you separate, you start unraveling it, right? And then you get a little deeper. You start unraveling that one little strand into individual strands, right? So that's what we need to do. And most people don't know how to do that, and there's no reason why they should. So to get it focused, the first thing I do is what I call the 4 T's.
Okay.
Now, when I mention them, you may think, okay, that's really obvious, Margalo. I didn't need for you to tell me that. But before I tell you specifically what they are, tell you a little story, just as a prologue here. So when I was little, my dad used to drive around with this big tool in his trunk, right?
Yeah.
And I'd be like, Daddy, what is that? And he said, okay, it's a lug wrench. It's a lug nut wrench. I was like, oh, okay, now I know what it is. I've been wondering for years, right? Okay, but I had never seen anyone use a lug nut wrench, and I had no idea what a lug nut was. So even though I knew, okay, that's a lug nut wrench, the thing is, tools are absolutely useless if we don't know how to use them to solve a problem, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm about to say are these 4 tools. It'll sound obvious, but I use them in a particular way, and we apply them. I apply them with my clients a particular way. Okay. So the first T is topic. Okay. It's
Okay.
topic, theme, takeaway, and target audience. And this is what those mean. For me, topic is what your reader can expect to see in this book,
Mm,
right? If I were recommending a book to you, say, I might say, okay, this is a vampire book or a teenage vampire love story,
yeah.
right? That would be my topic. You still don't know what the book's about, but if I read this book, I'm going to be reading about teenage vampires in love, right? So when you're writing a memoir, and if you don't like vampires, you're not going to read it, right? When you're writing a memoir, you look at that topic. You need to nail that down first. Is this going to be about substance abuse? Is it going to be about sexual abuse? Is it going to be about a travel? Like Wild, by Cheryl Strayed. Is it going to be about drinking, suicide, whatever it is that someone is writing about? We need to know, or you as the author need to know what it is you're writing about so that you can follow that strand of yarn and
Hmm.
it's on track, right? So you need to know that before you start. What is my topic?
Can't go on the tangents of different topics, isn't it?
Well, because we have so many stories to tell, right? So we need to lock down, okay, what is this story going to be?
Hmm.
Okay? Because memoir is not an autobiography. It's not about your entire life. It's about one thing that happened, right?
Yeah.
One strand of your life. So you need to lock that down with your topic. So then the theme, which is number 2, second tool is what am I saying about that topic, right?
Hmm.
So if it's, let's say your topic is, drinking, right? What are you saying about drinking? It's how I rebuilt my life
Yeah.
after, you know,
Yeah.
after hitting rock bottom, drinking. Okay, so that's your theme, and then you have to say, okay, what is my takeaway? And that's literally what are my readers going to take away from reading my book? They're going to close my book. They're going to read my book, say,
Hmm.
wow, close it. What is literally the message they are taking away with them? What is it you're trying to say? Okay. That's really important, obviously, because all these things are going to determine what scenes you pull out of your life to share. Which events, which conversations are you going to share? What will help you get that message across to your readers and communicate? And then the fourth tool,
This is so powerful already.
I was about to ask, is this too much?
It's amazing. I just want to get started now.
Great. Please get started. I encourage everyone. That's why I'm doing this. Get people stories out in front of people where they belong. Gosh. Um, so your last one, the last tool that I begin with, of course, there are many, many more tools,
Yeah.
but the last T is your target audience. And the reason why it's important to know this is because so many people come to me and I say, who's your target audience? They say, well, anybody, anyone who will buy my book. And no, that's not your target audience. You do need to know, or at least it's helpful at the very least, to know your target audience before you start writing. And this is why. Let's say you're writing that book, again, about drinking, say, right?
Hmm.
And it's a memoir, so it's your story, right? Why should it matter, who's reading it? Well, the thing is this. If you're writing your memoir for other people who have been drinking and are maybe going through what you've gone through and you want to inspire them, you may write it one way. You may use particular events. You may reflect differently, have different reflections upon your past. You might use different words, a different voice than if you're writing about, say, your experiences, your drinking journey, but maybe you're writing for people who have had to be caregivers, people who have lived with people who are drinking. That might be a totally different memoir, even though you're still telling your story. It will
Mm.
affect how you tell your story. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It could be, focusing on a different perspective for different audience, depending on what you want them to get out of it and relating your story in a different way, isn't it?
Right. And if you're writing, let's say, about for teenagers versus, older people versus professionals, versus for if you're writing it, maybe something that health professionals can use, right? You might write it in a very different way. It might sound academic. It might sound chummy. It might sound, do you want readers to read your book and be thinking, oh, this is someone that I'd love to go see and listen to their lecture? Or is it, hey, I'd love to go have a beer with this person and hang out, and, I mean, how do you come across in your book? So if you know who you're writing for, you'll be that much more effective getting your message across.
And do you think you should keep an end goal in mind when you're starting to write a book? Like where would you like this book to take you? Is it for professional matters, or is it just as a memoir? Is that something that you talk to your clients about, their end goal with it?
Absolutely. And I do that at the beginning as well.
Mm-hmm.
As I said, so far, the majority of my clients are people who come to me intending to use their memoir as a springboard to their business, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's important to know, are they planning to go, are they planning to publish, first of all, or are they just writing this for their families? If they want to publish, or do they want to go the traditional route, or they want to go the self-publishing route? And, again, how do they want to use this? For instance, one of my clients, she was writing about a series of traumatic events that happened to her in a very short space of time,
Mm-hmm.
and then her healing journey. And you do have to keep in mind that if you're trying to inspire people, which is the reason why a lot of people read memoir, right? They want to see, they want to resonate, first of all, with your story and your emotions and what happened to you and how it affected you, because they're seeing themselves in it, right? And then you want to inspire them. They want to see, how did you turn your life around, right? How did you fix this or transform? They want to read about your transformation. So if you want to be inspiring, and you want people to come to you and think, hey, maybe you can help me with my issue, then you have to make sure you're not overwhelming, your readers with all the bad stuff. You really have to make sure that you're being selective, that your story, you're actually presenting your story as an inspiring one. So yes, you do have to think about, how much do you want to share about your journey? How much information do you want to, first of all, give away? How much information do you want? How do you want people to leave your book feeling? Right? If you're just telling your story like, okay, I just need to get this out because I've been carrying this around, and you're not necessarily intending it to be inspiring, then great, just if that's all it is. But if you definitely have to think about, the specifics of how you write the book might change as you go on.
Mm-hmm.
I have another client who's like, oh, I started this thinking it was going to be about this, but it winds up being about that. And she went in a whole different direction. Once the memories started coming, she realized, wow, this was such a bigger part of my life than I even thought it was. But keeping the end goal in mind, not to be rigid about it, but keeping it in mind as you're writing. And these 4 T's and everything we've just discussed will help kind of create a guidebook that gives you parameters while you're writing, and it helps keep you on track.
Yeah, of course. Ladies, if you have any questions as we go along, please drop them in a chat box on the side. Just interact. If you have any comments, or if you're enjoying the workshop, let us know. Really, really exciting stuff. I just don't know where to pick because I have still so many questions to ask for you. As we started to talk about the publishing aspect, I wanted to ask you, as an expert and someone who seen and guided people through this journey, what are the benefits or drawbacks of publishing a physical book as opposed to, let's say, a Kindle book? And is it difficult to publish an actual book?
It's not difficult. It used to be a lot more involved. I actually self-published a physical book many years ago, before there was Amazon or anything for anyone to help. And it was quite a complex, not difficult, but complex process. Now you can create a physical book even through Amazon, through CreateSpace. So some people that I know actually launch an ebook and a physical book, or a paperback book, or hardback at the same time. Some people choose to do one and focus on getting that out there, launching that and then doing the other. Really, the benefits and the drawbacks are the same for both. There are going to be some people who prefer having everything, you'd be able to read everything on their phones, and they're not going to want to pay for a paperback, which can be more expensive, both to publish and to purchase, than an ebook. But then there are diehard book people, for instance, like me, who love having a book in my hand that I can carry with me and flipping the pages and using fancy bookmarks. And
yes, writing in it.
Yeah, so there are audiences for both. Like I said, ebooks can sometimes be less expensive. It's easier to change, things in there. Like if you self-publish your book, let's say on Amazon, and it's an ebook, and you notice mistakes, it's really easy to go in and just change them. Right?
Yeah.
You can reissue the book with several different covers, and it costs really nothing almost, to change that. Whereas, yes, it's more difficult, it's a longer process, and it's more expensive to do that with a paperback. Yeah. But there are still a lot of people out there who see an actual physical book as having more value, as being somehow more professional. That's obviously it's not the case with everyone, but it's going to be 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I recommend technically that people do both. I plan to do both with my book.
Of course. And when it comes to publishers and versus self-publishing, which route do you think is better? Obviously, I suppose it depends on the circumstances as well. But tell us a little bit more about the process of self-publishing and going for a publisher.
Big difference. It's huge. These days, going the traditional route is a lot more difficult even than it used to be, because first of all, you have the five big publishers. There were so many. I was in traditional publishing for many years when I was younger, after college, and even I worked for 2 different publishing companies in New York that were purchased by overseas companies. One by a German company and one by an English, British company. And so there's been a lot of consolidation, which means fewer big companies out there. And it's a much longer involved process. It used to be that the big publishing companies would help you do the developmental editing, which now coaches do, because people don't have the time or the energy or the money to nurture an author from the beginning to the end, right? So they want if you're going to send them a manuscript, they want it to be as perfect as it possibly can be before it ever gets to them, right? They're not going to start from the beginning and say, oh, well, you really need to redevelop this. They're just be like, no, sorry. And plus you have to do a query letter, right? It has to be, you have to research the different companies and find out, okay, what are they publishing? What might they be willing to take on? And if you're not a big name already, if you're not like Stephen King, or Deepak Chopra or somebody, they want you to have, an established platform and following before they would even really take you seriously. Self-publishing is fast. Plus, with a traditional publisher, it could be a year or 2 before it actually gets out there, even after they accept it, because it has to go through their editors and their designers and all that. Yeah. With self-publishing, it can be immediate. You could technically, you see all these things out there, publish your book in 90 days. It may not be the best book possible if you do it in that short a time, but technically you can do it, right? So you have total control over it, over what's in there, what it looks like, whose eyes it gets in front of, and how much it costs, right? So those are really the big benefits, that no one can tell you, no, you can't do this. Anyone now can write a book and get it out there and make a living doing it. So that's certainly the direction that I guide people toward.
I think things have changed dramatically over the last few years, and Like you say, the possibility of self-publishing several years ago just wasn't even there, and now you can actually publish a book overnight.
Yes, anyone can do it. You're the one who hits the publish button, and there it is out there.
Out there in Amazon store or Kindle store or just
Yeah.
out there.
It's mostly about building the buzz, about building the platform to help you get powerful launch. I'm actually working with a client right now who's chosen her own launch date of August 5th, and I'm helping her develop, doing like develop her launch team, people who are going to write reviews, working with the designers. Yeah, someone from Indiana. Hey.
Hi, Tina.
So yes, there is a process to go through. Of course, and there's a bit of a learning curve, the technology and everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to find cover designer, formatter. Of course, you write your own. Generally, you write your own, or you can get a copywriter to write, the book description for the back. You do your author bio and all that kind of stuff, but you have total control over it. And that
in terms of proofreading, do you suggest someone does proofreading for you?
Yes. The way I work, of course, I'm editing, as I go along. I work with people for months, right? And so I do the developmental editing and the line editing and the content. And however, now, unlike when I was an editor, as a coach now, I'm so intimately involved in the actual book and the writing of it that I know that my eyes should not be the last ones on there. Because I know what should be there. Yeah. So I do work with an outside editor who once my clients and I, once we're done, we're like, okay, this is a complete manuscript. This is a finished manuscript. It's good enough to go to the editor, then send it to my outside editor to do like last minute copywriting and proofreading. Dot the I's, cross the T's, make any changes that need to be, to make sure that, there's continuity, single space after a period now, and that kind of stuff. So yes, I do work with an outside editor, and I encourage anyone who's writing their own book to get it edited. Get it edited before you publish it. Because one of the downsides to anyone being able to publish their own book at any time is that there's a lot of really bad books out there.
I want to be one of them.
That's one of the things got into coaching, is that I see so many great books out there. People have these amazing stories to tell, but it's presented such, so poorly that I know they're not going to gain the readership that they could. And so I encourage everyone to make sure you work with an editor, no matter who it is. You'll find someone good, and just strive for excellence and get it out there, because you'll be that much more successful.
Of course. I think, it's such a shame when people have written books on fantastic subjects, but they haven't put in the time and care into really presenting in the right way, or writing in the right language, or just using poor language, which ultimately results to bad reviews and the book not being success. So I think it's so worthwhile to spend, a few more weeks really looking at it over again and letting someone else to help you, but publishing a fantastic end product.
Right. And again, with the self-publishing, at least you have the option of going in and fixing things in case someone gets back to you and, hey, this was like ginormous mistake. It's like, oops, you can go in and fix it. You can't do that with the hardcover.
Tina says in a comment, she said, you don't usually see your own mistakes, and she's edited a book for her friend, which is fantastic.
That's a huge help. It's a good thing. It's good for you to do, because that's true. What you see is what is supposed to be there. You're not going to see what's actually there.
Yeah. Our mind skips a word or two.
That's true for me too.
Yeah, of course. So ladies, if you have any questions, drop it in the comments, please. Let us know how, where you are on your journey of writing a book. And, if you're watching this on replay, share it within our Facebook group and let us know how's your book writing journey coming along, whether you have an idea, maybe you just started, maybe you're halfway through, and just discover this workshop, just make sure you share your journey with us, and I'm sure you'll be more than willing to help any of the ladies that tag you in the post.
Oh, great. Someone said it was helpful. Yay.
I would love to get into book editing. Writing has left me scattered, but it was helpful. Thank you. Awesome, Tina. So we're going to do a little bit more of a recap of what we've done in terms of the 4 tools that you have mentioned, because I think those are really, really important. And I know some of the ladies joined us a little bit late, so it'd be fantastic to just recap on the 4 tools that you have mentioned earlier for writing a book.
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
If we could just recap on the 4 tools that we covered already. I just, I always like to recap and really capture that learning and making sure that we got it in the bag and ready to take action on it.
Absolutely. So what I recommend to start is what I call the 4 T's. These are 4 tools that will create a guidebook for you as you're writing. And they are: know your topic. The topic being, what can someone else, what can your readers expect to read about? It can be one word, it can be a short phrase. Theme is, what are you saying about that topic? Right. So it could be, my topic is sexual abuse. My theme might be surviving sexual abuse or rebuilding your life after sexual abuse, right? So your topic and your theme. Third is your takeaway. Yeah. The takeaway is the message that you actually want your readers to take away from reading your book. Using the same example, it might be, it is possible to rebuild your life after sexual abuse, right? That would be your message. And the last T is your target audience. Narrow it down. Don't make it just, well, whoever wants to buy my book, or anyone in the world. Because who you want reading your book is who you're going to speak directly to, and it will affect how you communicate to your readers. Yeah. Okay. So no, are they teenagers? Are they professional women? Are they health professionals? Who do you want reading your book? Who are you sending your message to? And if you keep all these things in mind, and keep in mind that you're writing a story, which is a journey and some sort of transformation with steps in between, then you'll have a guidebook to writing your story, and it'll help keep you on track, which is a problem that a lot of people have. Some people have trouble starting. Some people have started, and then they go off in 15 different directions with stories that interweave, and they get lost. The 4 T's will help keep you on track.
Fantastic. We have a very good question from Layla, and her question is it better to write a whole chapter at a time or just start with outlining at the top level?
Really, it's different for all writers. What I generally do, everyone finds what works for them. But what I do when I'm working with a client is that once we establish those 4 T's, right, first, and then what you can start doing, you don't have to write whole chapters. You may not even divide your manuscript into chapters until much later. What's important is that you start writing down your scenes. Just start making a list of the events all the steps, right, along your journey, the journey, which is the story that you're telling. Yeah. Where did it start? Just start making a list of those events. Listing the events, you will eventually turn those into scenes, right? And the scenes will eventually make up the story.
Yeah, and turn into the chapters, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really not important. Once you have everything down, once you have a rough draft, you can make chapters. If you're one of those people who really needs structure, like, I need to know what chapter I'm writing now, you could do that before writing an entire draft. But I would work with the scenes first, because you'll start seeing, once you have enough of the events written down, enough of the scenes, enough of the conversations and the descriptions, you'll start seeing natural places to end and start a new section.
Okay, that totally makes sense. I see how that works. Yeah, no, it's very good. Because you always question, where do you start? How do you put it all together? How does it all become one big book? So you just don't know until you start the process. And if you have never done it, you just can't imagine what the process may look like.
Yes.
We have another question from Alex, and Alex is saying, do you need to have got to the other side of something like healing or a particular story or chapter in your life or successful business before you write anything? I.e., do you need to have a story completed before you actually start writing it?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the question is no. You can start writing at any point in time. As long as we're alive, our story is going on, right? So yes, generally, a lot of the most common stories we read are journeys where there's a transformation, and then you take it from there, right? However, let's say someone has an illness, a very serious illness, right? Well, a memoir might be, and I deal mostly with memoirs, again, not autobiographies, not like your whole life. If you're telling a story about something that is ongoing, likely there have been transformations that have gone on already, depending on the story you're telling. And it could be really just about how you're dealing with whatever your situation is. So can it be more satisfying for some readers if you've already, if this particular story is over? Yes, it can be. However, a story that is unfinished can be just as useful. It may not be as satisfying, but it can be just as useful.
Yeah.
Because however you are dealing with something, you can then help someone else deal with a similar situation. And sometimes it can be just as inspiring knowing that someone else is currently going through this. That's something that they can respond and relate and resonate with. Does that help?
Yeah, great advice. Let us know if you have any more questions. Oh, can I quickly answer that? Please carry on. Just talk a little bit more.
Talks amongst yourselves. Okay, everyone. I'm going to go ahead. If anyone has any more questions, because I think we're probably almost done, I'm going to go ahead and put my contact information in the chat. So if you have any further questions, feel free to contact me. This is my website. I'm just putting in my contact information, Raimonda.
Absolutely. We are almost running out of time. I guess that was my alarm clock. Yes, please. If any ladies wanted to ask you any questions or follow up with you, do share your website link or an email address. And you were saying that you're in the middle of writing a book as well at the moment.
Yes, I am. But let me just make one point about what I just put in there.
Sure.
So maecoaching.com is my website. memoirmademanageable.com is my blog. And at MA Eden Coach is my Instagram.
Okay.
So about my book, I'm tentatively calling it Fiction Techniques for Memoir Writers, to address what you were talking about before about the storytelling aspect of memoir writing. Okay, well, because we all know what happened in our lives. Like, well, this is my story. Of course, I just write what happened. But if any of you ever read novels that you find compelling, it's not just this happened, then this happened, then this happened, but this is, there's reflection, there are segues and connections. There's actually a journey occurring, right? There's the outside, external arc of, well, this is what happened outside, and then there's the internal arc of what happens inside you and how what happened outside changes you. And so it's really about how to use fiction writing techniques to write your nonfiction story, because there are certain techniques that do overlap between fiction and nonfiction, and others that are not okay when you're writing nonfiction. You can't place words in someone else's mouth because you think, oh, well, that'll make more sense. No, if your mother said it, it's not going to be okay if you make your brother say it in your memoir. because you have that integrity of someone's reading this because they're looking to read a real story or something that
Yeah.
actually happened. So it goes into the various fiction techniques, how to write in a compelling way, make your memoir read like a novel, but while still maintaining that integrity of nonfiction.
Fantastic. Can't wait to read it. When is it going to be published?
I'm hoping within the next maybe month and a half, but I'm not finished with the book yet. That's a
Yeah.
tentative title,
Yeah.
but I'm excited. I'm about halfway through, so I will let you know.
Of course, share in the group. I'm sure everyone will be so excited to congratulate you on launching it and also read it as well, because I think it will be a really amazing read.
Thank you so much. I'm excited.
I have really enjoyed the session. Ladies, I hope you have really, really enjoyed the session as well and taken some valuable feedback and new learnings from this workshop as well. Thank you so much. You are such a gem, Marilu. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me and inviting me here. This has really been really nice.
um, it has been amazing. I am really, really excited about starting my own book as well at some stage, hopefully this year. And ladies, after this workshop, there will be a workbook created for this workshop. So if you do want to come back to it and sort of use these tools that we shared today, you can do that. The workbook will be available in the Members Club, which I'll pop the link in. So all the workshop replays will be available there. Thank you. Thank you, Alex. Cheer for England. Yes, England is about to kick off their game in the semi-final today.
Hearing the mind.
Awesome. Thanks so much, ladies. Thanks for joining us live or anyone that's watching on a replay. And I hope we host you again in a workshop. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Take care, everyone.
All right. Take care. Bye.